just to say this is off topic a bit, but speaking of Nintendo, the whole thing was about like all the tariffs and all that. Like, it's going to play a factor. We know it's happening, right? Like
It
right
is.
now,
Yeah.
if you're trying to pre-order, it's going to be some issues because that's why they're waiting to April 9th and et cetera, and they got to figure that out. But the Bowser came out, still crazy, by the way, that his name is really Bowser, but isn't that crazy? Like,
Yeah,
like
it's
do they look
hilarious.
for that? I don't know how that worked, but it, I feel like I would have been kept my mouth closed, but he came out and was like, "Oh, the reason for the console prices and games is not because of the tariffs." It's like, my man, you should have just shut your mouth, because now you made yourself look even worse.
There's a worse story that popped out today. Hold on a sec. This is one of those topics, folks, that I'm going to try and make a video on. And I'm in my mind, like literally as I'm live streaming, I'm trying to figure out what that thumbnail is going to look like, because I really take making a thumbnail super serious, because it sells your brand. So it's got to be interesting. This is one of those topics, because this is, I love that. I love the kind of conversation that we're having right now, only because it is, there's no script. It's like literally we're just giving our opinion. So I actually just saw something, and I sent it to a bunch of people, and it's not good, ladies and gentlemen. So Jez Gordon, an amazing journalist, right? There was a posting from Nintendo Everything. They are a Twitter account, and this is what it said. This is going to make it worse than what you're talking about, Umbra. Here we go. Check this out. It says Nintendo says it understands that consumers won't be able to afford a Switch 2, which is why they're still making a Switch 1 available. Bro,
that is
done matching.
But that's what the guy. So so I want to give him credit. PG Lee, oh my God, in the chat has a picture of Don Matrix wearing a
yeah, that's Don Matrix all over again, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. And pointing to the Switch 2. And Jez Gordon, I'm reading verbatim. This is what Jez just wrote moments ago. Isn't that what Microsoft said about the Xbox One versus the Xbox 360?
100%.
And yeah, I mean, so we're here. I know this started out with Silksong, and I'm like I said, folks, I'm gonna make this into a smaller video. Please don't pan me for trying to do that, because this is crazy. But Umbra, you brought it up. Let's just get into it. I mean, tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about this on Primetime Gaming. I'm already writing that script. King David will be joining us as well. I'm going to see if I can get maybe Dirk Griggity join us, because they're going to have
get the slander all-stars up in here.
Oh, yes, 100%. Because this is, like, I'm a Nintendo guy, ladies and gentlemen. I don't make any apologies for it, Umbra. I love Nintendo, but this is some bullshit. But let's get your thoughts, man.
Yeah. No, man, like, I don't know if I'll slander those two gentlemen, those two legends right there, but I mean, the thing about it for me is the problem. Again, I was just having this discussion with shout out to Nerds and other legends and Lucius Augustus. You know him, Boom.
Yeah, Lucius, great guy. Nerds and other legends, great members of the community.
Mm-hmm. Both is super intelligent brothers, and
indeed,
I was literally just having this discussion with them about the hypocrisy and why I can't stand it, and how it concerns things. And if you really look at it, Xbox gets that a lot. It's a lot of hypocrisy surrounding Xbox, right? Things that others will allow for other platforms or games. Xbox won't get that. And I don't like that. I don't like you will call something out here it's bad, but when your favorite platform does it, or like Nintendo or Sony, well, hey, listen, you try to hand wave it. I don't like that. And if Xbox got crucified, which they did, as we all know, Matrix lost his job, everything else, so much happened around that. Why is Nintendo and Bowser not being tossed into the lava or something? I guess I got to play off his name and say
no. It's a fair question, and I'd like to let Jamie respond to that, because again, there's something going on here, and look, the gaming media is skewed, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't an Xbox tax situation. This is let's just read the room. Umbra asks a legitimate question, and since the Nintendo unveiling or reveal, right? The Switch 2 reveal, we got $80 and $90 games, right? There is one $70 game, which looks to be great, which is, of course, the new Donkey Kong Bonanza. Looks phenomenal. I'm very excited for it. I said on Friday that if this console was $750, I'm not buying it for myself. I will. And let me be clear here. I will buy one, but it's not going to be for me because I'm not going to tell my 16-year-old, my nephew is my life, that, hey, tariffs. He doesn't give a shit, and he doesn't even know what they are, and I don't need him to know. I want him to be the A student that he is and play the console that he wants. So I'm going to wind up having to bend the knee on this, like many parents. Now, again, he's not my son. He's my nephew. But like many parents, nephews, titis, tios, everything, we're all going to have to bend the knee for these Fs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is crazy because, again, you said, why can one? And that's the thing that's weird here, Jamie. And I'm sorry for a little bit of a rant, but Xbox does something, and let's say it's totally on the line, and it's positive, and it's community friendly, consumer friendly, panned, right? Shadow banned. Xbox, again, always bad. PlayStation, no problem. They're the market leader. Nintendo, it's Nintendo. Nintendo's going to Nintendo. I don't know where this goes, Jamie Moran, but this is crazy. This is literally a Don Matrix in 2025. Like, literally.
Yeah, I mean, look, for people that know me, I talk about video game prices a lot because I think that, like, this hobby is bloody amazing, but some things just cost way too much. It is a luxury, but like when you have games coming out that are potentially going to cost the third of a console, then we have a problem. But look, we've talked about this before. I think a lot of people talk about this. Nintendo gets a pass, right? They always will. Xbox, they came out in 2013 talking about, hey, our console's going to have DRM. It's going to have a microphone and a camera. People lost their bloody marbles. They acted like the end of the world happened. The apocalypse was coming. And what happened? Xbox is still not recovered at all 12 years later. And Nintendo did the exact same thing. But this time, the game prices went up. And it's kind of getting swept under the rug. I've seen so many people stick up for the $80 price thing. Like, I'm putting my foot down. I did for $70. I'm putting my foot down again. The $80 thing, people can't let it slide, right? I live in the UK, obviously. And, like, let me tell you, like, video game prices during the 7th generation were roughly around £37, right? Do you know how much they are now? 70. We're paying basically double. And like that was across 2 generations, and it like I was basically the only person in the UK online saying, "Hey, this is ridiculous." Nobody was reporting about it, and it really annoyed me. And like Microsoft, what they did in 2013, no one's got over it. Nintendo's getting a pass, and we've seen it live. I'm seeing journalists talk about how Mario Kart is worth $80. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but this past week I've been posting about Forza Horizon 5 and how it's a big open world racing game with dynamic weather, how it changes the racing conditions of the track. Basically, Mario Kart World is Forza Horizon, but but they're trying to justify its price because it's open world and it has a lot of content, and they're saying that they're going to have a variable pricing. No, they're not. No,
variable pricing. I was literally just looking it up. I had sent it to me. I said that is, shout out to one of your co-hosts. My God, what is her name on Fridays? Oh my God, Umbra. What is your I can't remember her name. Holly. Holly actually put out a tweet, which was awesome, saying that what you just said, Jamie, is a slippery slope. So on a Tuesday, they could be like, yeah, this is a $90 game. On a Thursday, it could be $70. Like, I look, this industry, I thought, gentlemen, that the industry was already walking a razor's edge, Jamie, because of $70 pricing and consoles that are $700 and $800 with peripherals. This Nintendo push, on top of tariffs, which could take a $449 console, which, by the way, folks, if you didn't know, was over $100 cheaper in Japan, which is why the Japan version of the Nintendo Switch 2 is region locked. like the old school Nintendo stuff. That means that if you buy a Japanese one, you're going to have to import the games. And obviously people would go and import it because you could play for cheaper. The Switch One, I import games all the time, mostly shooters, most of them shmups, I should say. And I love shoot 'em ups, and I buy a lot of them, and they're imported, and they work on my Switch just fine. That's been changed for the Switch 2 because the Switch 2 in Japan is over $100 cheaper, which I don't know what's going to happen here, ladies and gentlemen. I know this is off topic. This is an Xbox podcast, but this is ultimately, I think, and I said it on Friday, is going to make Game Pass look like the breadwinner, Jamie.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, really think about this. We live in a world where we have this service called Game Pass. You pay X amount of dollars, pounds, whatever you want to call it, per month, and you have access to a huge catalog of games. And every week, we have podcasts by people that they spend their entire show bashing Game Pass, saying that there's no value. And yet these same people have been saying for years, no, $70 games is fine because they're worth it, right? These pay pigs are the reason why prices are going to go up to 80. And do you know what's going to happen? They're going to go up to 90 and then 100. Because guess what? If you live in Australia, rather than having to deal with house-sized spiders every single day, you're dealing with $120 games, right? In the UK,
can you imagine having to deal with Jumanji spiders and high prices like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be terrified. I'd be dead by now. But look, we started this conversation with how like Nintendo gets a pass for something Nintendo's do. Sorry, for something Microsoft did, and they are right. A console with DRM, a microphone on the console. There's a camera, albeit that's optional. You know, the sticks aren't Hall effect. And by the way, I've been telling Microsoft and Sony put bloody Hall effect sticks in your controller. And it costs them like 1 penny more to put them in. But like it's ridiculous. And I'm seeing actual journalists with like hundreds of thousands of followers trying to push that the video game price is going up. So okay,
it's never okay. It's just not.
And I've been saying this for like 2 years now. I think the price is going up to $70 has hurt the game industry. More and more people are waiting for sales, as they should. And there's no reason to buy a game day one. There never is, right? And if the prices do go up to 80 and people let it slide, I 100% think in the next 18 months there's going to be a crash. People are going to stop buying AAA games day one. Investors and studio heads are going to look at that and start shutting down studios because they didn't make the revenue they wanted in the first month of the sale coming out. And we're going to be basically in a slump for maybe 2 to 3 years before developers find out that they shouldn't be spending $300 billion on each game, even though they don't look like they cost that much. Honestly, I'm kind of talking over myself a minute because I'm annoyed. It's going to get people are going to let it slide. And I will say this, in the past, people have actually spoke with their wallets because the 3DS launched at an egregious price. And then Nintendo found out quick when no one was pre-ordering the system. So they basically slashed that thing in half. And what do you know? 3DS became bloody popular. So like, all I hope is that people literally vote with their wallets. This $80 game thing it's stupid, right? It's absolutely stupid. People are complaining about the price of eggs on Twitter every single day. People complain about everything. But this $80 game thing, it's enough. It's just too much. I've had enough because the price of everything has gone up. We talk about $700 consoles, even though we've never talked about $700 consoles until PlayStation 5 Pro came out. We just magically talk about $700 all of a sudden. You know, and by the way, I'm talking like this. I don't actually think the Switch 2 is an overly priced console. In the UK, it's
no. I think it's fair for the pricing of what it is. Listen, consoles are getting more expensive. This is not an argument. I know that a lot of us thought $399. You know, Nintendo was going to take one for the team. They don't take one for anybody. But I agree right there with you. Console price not a problem, and I mean that without tariffs. I'm not saying $750 for a freaking Nintendo Switch 2 is okay. It is not. But you know, if it turns out that they don't raise the price and it's $500 with Mario Kart, I'm gonna buy the console. The games, and I said this the other day, what it's gonna do for me as a consumer is I buy a lot of Switch games. That is going to be cut down to a 10th. Like I'm gonna probably buy 2, 3, maybe 4 Switch games, and they're gonna have to be mainstays. It's not going to be like I'm going to go out and buy Mario Tennis, which I have. And I gladly went out and bought it for $60 For $80, I don't play that game enough to justify that. And the problem with Nintendo, gentlemen, and we all talked about this already, they don't have sales. Their games do not go on sale.
That's the biggest problem for me outside of the ridiculous raising of the price. And this, okay. The problem I have with Nintendo on this is twofold. And I get the business, but people, it's business. I don't care. I'm looking at this from a consumer standpoint. I'm never going to be arguing from a business standpoint when it comes to this. And I hate when people do that because it's like, what does that matter to me? I don't get any of that. Right. Now, if I was getting some of the money, I'd be like, listen, folks, you need to get with the time as business. I'm not getting a dime. Maybe Epic when I praise Unreal, but other than that, But my thing is this. It's twofold because on top of the raised prices and setting that incentivizing higher prices in cost for gaming that we are going to have to pay, because you best believe Sony and Microsoft eventually might have to, capitulate to that with the pricing that the prices for the games they make. That's the bigger problem. And that was nasty, by the way, that just happened to you on the screen. Did he? It wasn't right.
Yeah, he did a Matrix kind of a thing to me. I was hiding. He got me. So
I'm like, what did he just do to you? Anyway, the man did a ballerina spin midair and shot you with the sniper rifle. Anyway. I'm sorry, I got distracted briefly. I don't play enough Call of Duty, so I'm a lot of this stuff I'm seeing. It's like, what? Anyway, so on top of that is now also because they're going to incentivize Sony. Sony's going to take hold and be like, yeah, we've been waiting to do this. GTA is likely going to be $100 game. They've been talking about that for so long. I expect it. We all expect it. And now this right here almost guarantees it. Yeah. And think about this. They're paying many more, hundreds of millions more to make the games they make on a Sony or Xbox versus Nintendo. This is what makes Nintendo's more egregious because Mario Kart World, as nice as it looks, as great and fun as it's probably going to be, probably cost them $70 million or something to make.
Yeah. That. Under $100 million. There's no doubt about it. Right. I'm sure a lot of those assets, even though it looks
right,
great,
they're reused, right?
They're probably old assets, bro.
And exactly. And I listen, I'm not against, because all games do that, all game makers do that, whatever. But my thing is, you all it don't take you all that much to make the game. Why is your game $80 or plus tax, which is basically going to be $90 versus, let's say the Xbox title, like or a major AAA from Sony. Like why are they priced higher than the games that cost 2 to 3 times more than what you're costing to make this game? Because you're not passing on the cost to us to supplement that. No, you're robbing us for more, essentially. So I want to, this the problem with me, for me, is like, how do you explain that, or how do you make up for that? Because I don't, like you said, Boom, I don't think I'll be playing enough of the games that they make to be like, yeah, that justified it. No, it won't. I don't think I barely think $70 is justified. You see me complain about that all the time. So 80 and more, yeah, that's a problem. And people, we have to start, and I'm say this last part and I'll shut up, but we have to vote with our wallet, y'all.
Yeah.
Like the problem with this is that the reason why Nintendo can afford not to put their games on sale, to your point, Boom, and they don't go on sale, you're right. It's typically they'll wait for a long time, or maybe they'll do a bundle sale or something, but they don't depreciate, right? And the reason why is because Nintendo fans, they treat it like, oh, it's the holy grail. Look how much they sell, like title wise. They sell 30. I think Animal Crossing sold like a ridiculous 38 million copies or something like that.
It's more than 40 now. I think. Yeah,
they sell insane amounts. You would think Metroid would sell like that, but it doesn't. Unfortunately, it's weird. But games like Animal Crossing, games like, you know what I mean, Mario World, Super Mario Kart 8, whatever it was called, Mario Kart 8, that sold like ridiculous numbers, right? I know they bundled it too, but I'm just saying, like, the reason why they can get away with that is because people don't vote with their wallets and tell them, nope, that's not acceptable. No,
Nintendo are you ready for this, Umbra?
They'll buy cardboard, in fact, from them.
Yeah, they will. As of December 31st of last year, mind you, we are in month 4 of 2025. Nearly 48 million copies of Animal Crossing have sold.
How many?
48 million.
It's actually worse than
that's ridiculous.
It's worse than what people are talking about when it comes to Nintendo. Because I'm going to mention a little factoid which you've probably not seen anyone talk about in your feed, and your jaw might hit the floor. Nintendo raised the price of their games in 2023 to $70. So they're doing it again in 2 years.
Wow. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. So like Tears of the Kingdom was their first $70 game.
$70.
They raised the price of their own games in the same generation, and they justified the price increase because, of the content you're getting. They're going to do the same thing over and over and over again. And people are letting it slide. And do you know what's even? It gets worse. It's the Don Matrick thing. It gets even worse.
Yeah.
Right? The demo, the tech demo for the Switch 2
$10.
It's $10.
Oh, that right there was offensive.
Yeah. And bear in mind, Sony, is egregious as Sony is, they put Astrobot or whatever, Astro's Playroom, that's free.
Yeah,
right?
and an actual game.
Yeah,
that game was amazing, by the way. I know it was a tech demo, but it was an actual game that I loved every second of it.
Yeah, and like the upgrades, and people know I talk about upgrades all the time on Twitter, but like they're charging multiple different prices for their upgrades. So if it's a graphical increase, it's $10. But if there's more content involved, such as an extra level or an extra character, it's $20. Like, and it's getting people are letting it slide by. Like you have these Nintendo content creators out there defending it, and it's pay pig behavior. And
really is, yeah.
and bear in mind, as someone that lives in the UK, £70 games, that's like $87. If the prices go up again, I'm going to blast off, man.
Like Team Rocket, also co-owned by Nintendo with Pokemon. By the way,
again, great segue. Look, again, folks, this is one of those conversations that we don't plan for. Stuff is happening live on the air. I think it was great to respond to it. I love everyone's opinion. The chat has been going back and forth with one another. I know some people in the chat wants to get back to Xbox talk. We're gonna get this out to midnight. That is the headliner topic of today's show, and we're gonna celebrate in a big way because again, the game is phenomenal. It is made by Compulsion Games, a AA studio. I said this in my video review that they punched way above their weight with this. This game is phenomenal. Is it perfect? It is not. I make no mistakes for giving it or no excuses for giving it a 9. It is a 9 out of 10. Now, other people have given it 6s. I disagree 1,000%. Some people have given it 8.5. That's their opinion. I gave it an additional 5%, 5 points more. I did point out some of the things that needed work. Some of the jumping, some of the platforming, not great. The combat, once you learn it, is really good, but it is very limited. And of course, that was also one of the half points that came off. But we're going to get back to it, folks. But before we do, let me just catch up on Super Chats here. We have Do You, K Now, the Broke Boy Insider, drops not one, but two $5 Super Chats. And Will goes on to say, so Switch 2 pre-orders are delayed in the U.S. due to tariffs. But on Best Buy and other sites, you can still pre-order the games. Why aren't they affected? That's crazy. I'm not pre-ordering a single thing. I will, again, if the console is $500, I will buy the console for me and my nephew, and I will play the F out of Mario Kart. What I'm going to wait to see if they do, and I've said this before, is that occasionally they offer these vouchers through the Nintendo eShop. And the vouchers used to be $100. And what it would do is would get you 2 games. So at the regular $60 price, $65.03 or $65.08 with tax, you would get literally 2 games digitally for the $100. Well, what I did is I got Tears of the Kingdom, which was a $76.43 with tax game. I got it for $50 because I got 2 games. I bought the $100. The $100 certificate that they offer, a voucher they call it. If they do offer digital games from the vouchers to, like, let's say for instance they raise it to 120. I'd love it to be 100, but let's say it's 110 or 120. You're paying $60 a game. Then I will buy my games using those digital vouchers. I will not buy a physical game ever again. And I will not buy a game digitally for $80 because that's if we bend the knee for that, then we're asking for trouble. And like I said, if you think it stops here, folks, Nintendo kicked the door off the hinges. They didn't open the door; they literally kicked it off. So, Paris, listen, I don't know how much time you got. Let's get your hot take on the Nintendo situation, and we'll bring Jamie in and get his opinion on South to Midnight. What are your thoughts on this? I guess you can call it drama from Bowser, because that's crazy. I know. Basically, you know what? Let me because Ryan McCaffrey actually just tweeted about it. Ryan McCaffrey from IGN says, "I can't believe this is a real quote. LOL." And Okami13_, who's going to be a guest on one of the upcoming shows, amazing person on the socials, says Doug Bowser of Nintendo Switch 2 says this regarding its price. Some people may not be able to afford the Switch 2's price point. That's why we wanted to make other Switch platforms available. Meaning, like, if you can't get an Xbox One, we got a console for you. It's called the Xbox 360. Yikes! Not good. Paris.
Yeah, and I saw the same thing, and it is literally deja vu from 2013 with Xbox. That's why all the Don Metric, memes are starting to pop up over that. And it's here's my thing. If you just give me a little bit of room on this with the Switch stuff.
Yeah.
So I am not upset that it's $450. Forget the tariff stuff. Let's just look at it at face value right now, right? I'm not upset that they're charging for $450 for it, because when you look at from a spec standpoint, what it's doing, sure, I thought it would be $399, but $450 isn't crazy for that. So I'm like, okay, fine. It was the $80 for Mario Kart World that did it for me, because it sets a precedent. You guys have already talked about this. My immediate thought was, well, Grand Theft Auto 6 is $100.
Yes.
If they're doing this. And you can't tell me that both Xbox and PlayStation will not raise their prices to $80 for their big AAA games. Of course they will. They're doing the industry a favor by being the first ones to do it. So now you can excuse when you raise your prices on your games. That's what I don't like about it. I don't go with the argument of, well, in the 1990s, games were blah, 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 blah. I don't care. I think Legendary Drops put a tweet out yesterday, which encapsulated it perfectly. People care about the prices of things today and what they can afford. And I had even said it last week. I go, sure, prices are going up, but I don't see salaries going up to match it. I know that. I know everything right now is more expensive. So I'm not happy to see game prices go up, because what will happen, I think you guys already talked about this as well, is sure, a lot of us will still go buy Mario Kart World. But guess what? Maybe now we don't go buy Donkey Kong. Maybe we don't go buy Kirby. You know what I mean? The repercussions are going to be, you might still buy that $80 game, but then there's other games. Let's just take South to Midnight example. Damn, I can't afford to spend the other $40 to go get that. Now I'm not going to go buy that. You're going to be way more selective about the games that you purchase, because it's more expensive as a barrier to entry to get in. That's my thing with it. That's what I don't like. Again, I'm a family of 5 with 3 kids that all love the Switch. They're all going to want the Switch 2. They're all going to want games on it. And sorry, people can think, oh, you get review codes and all that. I don't get it for everything. I tell you that. I buy games and systems just like everybody else does. Yep. So I'm very conscious about where I spend my money and how I spend my money. So no, it's not good. It's not good for the industry. I understand budget costs and people can all that. As a consumer, that is not my problem. My concern is value, and it always will be. That's why I brought the Game Pass thing. If anything, Game Pass probably thrives in an industry that's charging $80, $90, $100 per game, because now you're going to get more value and be able to play more games by subscribing to something like that. So I don't know. I've seen all kind of arguments towards it, but I do think the vast consensus is nobody's a fan of $80. Why would you be?